Joanne, what do you think of this mix of council as far as not just the gender 50-50, because I know for a fact that not everybody that's on either the man's side or the woman's side will vote together because they have different political outlooks and perspectives in life, right?
Yeah.
So, but with that in mind, the skills that are still there, the institutional experience that we have, and then the new fresh blood, and also in Alanda's case, for example, I wouldn't call her a new face as far as community goes. So, what do you think?
Well, we have 4 experienced counselors on, and we have 6 beginners, if you want, or new ones, and plus a new mayor. Remember that the city clerk is always there to help you, especially with procedural matters. And if something happened, you say, what just happened? I don't understand it. You go back to the clerk and you get educated. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get better. There are tools and resources available to assist counselors to be successful with their roles if they want to access those tools. And there's a lot of training done by staff, but there's also training done by the Association the Ontario AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario,
right.
Have great courses that you can take. So it's great to have all beginners attend because you will learn a lot. And I'm an optimist. I'm fully confident that the council will come together at some point, or maybe right off the bat, and will move the city forward. That's what I'm hoping for.
And do you see any specific reason for that hope?
If somebody will become a leader in the group and rally. And I do know from the experienced ones, the 4 experienced counselors, they all have the leadership skill set in them if they want to use it for the common good of the city. Mm-hmm. to rally them, and to remind them also, like, they have the history behind them of certain projects that they can enlighten and share with the others before it's time to vote.
And that's Chris Main, Mark King, Tanya Vriebosch, and Mac Bain.
Yeah, those 4. So they may have to put on different hats at different times, but whenever there's a need, they need to step forward.
Were you surprised at that outcome?
Yeah, I guess in a way. I didn't expect that many newcomers. I would have liked to have seen maybe 1 or 2 more experienced counselors in there, but they'll figure it out. Dave Mendocino, for the simple reason that, to be honest, Dave Mendocino was my right-hand man for 4 years. You ask Dave to do something, he'll go do it, and he'll come back and say, I've done it. Mm-hmm. He's a great team worker, and he always... there's a logic to him, and maybe we're a little similar at times, like why we chose to say yes or why we chose to say no. But...
pragmatism.
Yeah,
I see in both of you.
But he's a hard worker, and that's what to see someone who's to see someone or a few that open up their laptop and have not even downloaded their notes yet, because it takes 2 minutes to download before it actually pops up on the screen at the beginning of the meeting, and they're speed reading because they don't know how they're going to vote, because now they're all of a sudden they're speed reading a report of 6-7 pages within a minute. You have to read the reports, and you have to let them simmer in your mind, and that's when I'll do a hobby or I'll go swimming, digest it, right? And then come back and I'll read. A lot of them I would read again and write questions, and I would set up a meeting with the staff that wrote the report. I say, explain this to me. I need to know more about this. And sometimes I would go to the community experts. There was a few of them that I knew are experts in their fields, and I would say, enlighten me on this. I want to learn tell me about your views on this one. And so then you put it all pass it through the funnel, and whatever came out was my yes or my no, and my reasons for it, my pros and cons for voting that way. So so that for me, it's always been, even when any committee I was on, like my personal view was, if you did not read the minutes and the reports, you have no right to show up to the meeting, because that vote is important. Every vote is important.
I had a similar experience. I've never been on council, but I've been on committees of council when we lived in the municipality of Callander. And I saw that sort of thing happening all the time, that people were not prepared when they came to meetings.
And in the older days, they would rip open the envelope. You were to pick up the envelope 7 days before, and I can tell you, being on the board at the Y, the people that represented the city, they warmed up the seats, that was it. They would pop in 2 minutes before the meeting started, rip it open, and I was like, oh yeah, why are you here? You're just decoration, I guess, that you represent the city, because you're not ready for this meeting. So that was an insult to the rest of the citizens that were on the committee, that board. So
yeah, work ethic at council is definitely an issue. For some of the councillors, and you know which ones are working hard and which ones aren't after a while. And it's interesting that not always the hardest worker ones get reelected.
No, and even like to say, I didn't catch that in your report. What was that again? No, you didn't catch it because you didn't read it. Good one. Good one. Yeah. So.
So what are you going to be watching for with the issues going forward? Like, you're no longer at the table. Are you going to be, do you have plans in 4 years? What are you going to do?
I'm going to reassess.
Yeah.
I'll reassess when I get there, depending on
where
I'm at. The one things I can tell you that I've learned in the last 4 years, if these all of them want some advice. First of all, is leave the ego at home, and leave your agenda at home. I've had so many people come in with one thing, and when you ask, are you going to be, I don't care about that project, all I want is this. I don't know how I'm going to vote. So that means they never prepared. They don't. So that's a waste of, you are not representing all of the citizens of North Bay. And especially if you have any type of political affiliation, and that's what your purpose is, to bring this forward. This is not provincial, it's not federal. We are a city, and we do what's good for the city. To always look at the big picture or the forests and not the one tree, because that one tree can scream really loud, but it's not necessarily what the city needs. So you have to watch that. And one thing I learned, be mindful. The decision you make today will have ramifications to the city, could have, down the road. And I've had to address issues of decisions that were made 20 years ago or 10, 15 years ago. And there's still issues today, and I bet you the new council will get the same issues again, and there's no way to make it better. We can't fix it. And that's sad in a way. So whatever you decide, that's one of your check boxes should be, what impact or what ripple effect will this have to the community down the road? Pros and cons of it. You rely on staff. Staff are professionals, or they're experts in their fields, and they're always there, but they're neutral. They give you the information that you need. And sometimes whenever people will test you at the beginning because you're new, and they'll bring back their issues back to the forefront, 4 years later. So you have to go, so you either put your foot in your mouth, or you go to staff and say, this problem that we had over here, what's the history on that one? So they will give you the history, and then you will see, okay, this is how I need to approach it. Always, we talked about that, always be prepared. But at the end of the day, you're your own person, and you have to sleep well at night. So make the decision by yourself. Don't make it because, and this is where when anybody wanted to volunteer or donate money, no score to settle, no strings attached. And they looked at me and said, I'm serious. No strings attached. And no, Joe, no strings attached. And that's how it was. So that if you come up because you're on a committee of some sort and you want to have money, it's not going to be because you gave me $300 for my campaign. that is totally out of it. Because if you force it, it'll go the other way, right?
I was going to ask you how much
Yeah.
your campaign cost.
Oh, roughly right now, I haven't done the final total, probably 20,000. I received about a little over 5,000, I think, of donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the investment.
Well, I did say, right?
Yeah.
Every year I put $5,000 aside. So I could have spent 20, but I can't. My max was 15, almost 16,000. But that is it. But I'm glad that say 20,000 North Bay Proud Shop Local.
Yeah.
It was all the locals, and it was a joy to work with them. And at the end of the day, to save 50 cents or $1, what happens if I don't support that business? That's what's important. You got to support the community.
Where'd you get your signs done?
Seymour Graphics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do they print them here or order them out of town?
He ordered them out of town at first.
Yeah.
And actually, when I look back, his price was even better than 4 years ago for me. And then at the end, it was like, I have competitive brothers who were putting up signs and going around and saying, "Joanne, you need more big signs." I said, "Well, come on." Okay, so I called him up and he says, "Joanne, yeah, I will guarantee you the same price." And I said, No. Because in June, there wasn't a high demand for signs. Beginning September there is. So no, whatever your price is, that's fine. And he goes, no. Then he went, you know what? Because if you accept them one-sided and not double-sided, I can do them in-house. And he did them in 48 hours.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so that's the advantage of shopping local. And he said, I'm going to match the same price. You don't have to do that. Give me your true price. No, I'm matching the same price as what I got you in June.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a great relationship with Mark, and I'd probably go back to him or next.
Yeah, somebody said I should try to do an expose on where the signs were actually done, whether they're local for all the different candidates.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and
but I know that a lot of them have to order out for certain type of signs and numbers. So
yeah, you have to order out, but you can still go through a local person and let them order out.
Yeah, of course.
Let them be the middleman, and I did the same with the printing.
Yeah,
I did the same with my rack cards. Got an excellent price. Warriors Printing.
yeah, Moyes, yeah, good
went
people.
Went to see Alan Louise, and it was good. So even we would go local first, and there's only one thing that was not local, the Facebook ad. That's the only bill I have to pay that's not local. Is the ads that we put on Facebook.
How did I know you were the only candidate that I interviewed that used clips from the interviews for their promotions, and I thought it was an excellent way. To do it. Did you get good traction with that?
Yes, and apparently on the last few days, I forget how many. He said it to me, but it went over. Something like every 3 minutes, somebody hit.
Oh, no kidding, eh?
Yeah. So over that last week there was like 100,000
views.
Well, it's interesting because over the
Yeah.
last week, when I was talking to people, was when your name suddenly.
Yeah, and that was trusting a youth. I know my weaknesses, and I've learned that with my business. You hire your weaknesses. You don't hire your strengths. You hire your weaknesses. And that was a youth, and I learned it last time. The youth told me how I should not disturb people when they're rushed and they only have half an hour to get in the house, feed the kid, go to soccer. Respect their time, and people don't answer doors like they used to, right? So it was a little different strategy, but and it worked. And we had a youth on board, and youth for me might be up to 40 years old.
So you had a high pressure online marketing push in the last week.
Yeah,
basically.
and everything, even in of all of October with the radio, which was the Moose and their country station, and it was just it accumulated to the end.
Now,
it went stronger and stronger.
Up until about the Wednesday or Thursday before the election, there was already 6,000 or 7,000 votes cast with the early polls.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but then there's still another almost 12,000 that vote in the last week, right?
Yeah, I believe there was. If you look at it, I thought there was 9,000 at the last day. So there was like maybe a third went personally to a.
Okay.
On that last day, maybe a third went. But still, even my neighbor was, oh no. I like to see my paper go in, that,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's why we have both.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting what's decided in 4 years. Will it be because hybrid? I believe we didn't really save money because we had both systems. But if you just go paperless, and maybe have a computer station set up for 2 weeks that people can just go to City Hall or go somewhere. Or have
The problem with that is that there will always be people who, older people,
Yes.
who are not computer savvy and who are intimidated by the process.
right.
So
you
I don't
yeah.
know how you can really just go complete
And it's
computer.
Okay. Complete.
But if the hybrid is that you have for 2 weeks, anybody can come in and vote, and a system where you can help them come in, that should
Yeah.
do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I've had a few reach out to me, and we've sent volunteers. To
We
go, and I
we
said,
we did
to-
all.
Yeah.
Everyone in this family voted online.
Right.
Found it really convenient. But I didn't vote online until the last day. And I've heard people say, oh, if I'd known this, I would have. So to me,
Right,
there
to
was
hold-
a distinct advantage
to
in
wait till-
gathering your
yes,
information
yes,
and being
yes.
really sure about.
Yeah.
I don't say that about your position. I knew
Yeah.
early on I was going to vote for, fairly early on, I should say. But I felt that way about
Yeah.
the councillors,
Yeah.
that there was a lot that I
Yes,
needed
that's
to
good.
know.
Or something would at
Yeah.
the end. And for me, even it was like, this is different chemistry here, different, because really you started to vote online on the 16th. So it was, well, why am I continuing to canvass when half of them said, Joe, I voted for you. I've already voted online. I voted for you. So you felt you wish you would have known this house already. And actually, Politics Now, which is in Northern Ontario, okay, trying to get women elected. There were people, I believe, from the south that have joined. It's not just for Northern Ontario. And one lady's comment was, it was really neat because I would go to this house and I would check. And I know that person already voted, so I didn't have to. I moved on to the next house. So this was for online voting information that was accessible to the candidates, not telling them how they voted, just to say they voted, which is good. They voted, leave them alone. The decision has been made, so don't move on to the next house, which would be good to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Along the same, just sort of slight
Yeah,
tangent
yeah,
on the
yeah.
on the women's getting them elected and whatnot. Mark King was stepped into the goo
Yeah.
commenting about the new faces, and it was twisted into a misogynist
Yeah.
comment. And I don't know, you know Mark.
I know Mark, and
Do you think he was being just paternalistic, ageist, or misogynist?
Well, actually, if you listen to Mark when you did the interview with all the councillors, like in June, July, he also mentioned something there about having, I don't know if it was the children at home and stuff like that. So that caught me, and this is what's wrong with us right now. We're in between two. Maybe the 30 and 40-year-old girls won't be, but. When you see somebody, it's just Mark, and you let it be. And it's like a book of saying, call it out. And that's what we have to do, is call it out. And maybe that's how he's going to learn to change his ways.
Well, he does have a legitimate concern about inexperienced people taking on difficult... it's legitimate to have that concern.
Yes,
I'm not saying it's right, but
he-
it's his concern.
Right. I did okay.
Yeah.
And I was, and the one thing about him at first is he would kind of hover and talk to me. And I didn't see it from there, but from another guy's perspective, it was condescending. And he didn't like that. And I didn't pick up on it because you're used to boys or men around you and you just...
My point is,
But-
when do you do that to a young guy too?
No.
Yeah, he
No,
did,
good.
though. He did criticize Sheldon and Robertson in the same way,
Okay.
paternalistically.
Right.
Saying
Oh.
experienced
wise old
counsel-
man kind of thing?
Yeah,
But-
I'm just trying to say,
Yeah.
unless somebody actually says,
Maggie
women can't do this.
Or Maggie can't do this
Or,
because...
or
yeah, yeah.
she like because she's female she can't, or whatever. Unless
Yeah.
it's not misogyny unless it's real. That's
Right.
my point.
Okay.
And I know
Okay.
it exists.
Yeah.
But this isn't a good example of it because I think he's being more paternalistic and ageist, right? If you want to put labels on it.
Right. Right.
I know there discrimination and oppression of women has a long history,
Yes.
but I don't think that was an example of it.
Okay.
That's all.
That's fine.
You know, in the
Yeah.
70s, I was really active in the environmental movement, the days of Pollution Probe, and a local organization we had here called ECO. And I felt really passionate. I had 2 young children at home, and I wanted to change the world, the direction the world was going in. I'd read Silent Spring. And there were a number of us, and the number of times we would get, well, why don't you, if you care so much about your children's future, why aren't you home looking after them? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the really priceless moments was when we used to do this thing on Friday nights at the grocery store where we would, and with the permission of the grocery stores, we'd set up a table outside and we'd have alternatives to phosphate detergents. And they'd all be products from the store. And we would be saying, look, instead of going in and buying Tide, you can buy this and this, or this, and get the same results. You don't have to dump phosphates into our rivers and lakes. And we'd also explain, what was happening. It was basically fertilizing the lakes. So one night we were there, and it happened that the women's editor for the Nugget, the Nugget came and did a story about us. And so they asked our names, and my friend said her name, Jean Kerr. I said my name, Pat Stamp. So the article appeared in the Nugget, and this is about 1972, I'm going to guess. The women's editor for the Nugget wrote an editorial about the fact that it was wrong for us to be called by our names, and that we should have been Mrs. Lloyd Stamp, Mrs. Dave Kerr. That was the gist of it. Well, Lloyd wasn't anywhere near that table that night. Pat was speaking on her own, right? But at the time, I was still 1972, I was still supposed to be Mrs. Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
And there were still, guys my husband worked with who would say to him, can't you control your wife? And the answer was no.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, it doesn't exist right now, though.
No, it doesn't exist now. But that's what we.
That's where
what
we've come
came
from, and that's how
There's
long.
where we've come
right?
from.
It's been a long road. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sexist. Yeah, newspapers been reinforcing that with their style guides for a long time, and also have been on a bit of the leading edge of publication type things to change that in the last little while.
Well, there was also a little bit of that, and Joanne, you might be able to relate to this, I don't know, but I was a professional potter. And so I was making crafts, right? Well, it was interesting how often women who made crafts were hobbyists, but men who were potters were professionals.
I'm sure you saw that for sure, yeah.
That continued on for the longest time. And that, and one gentleman who was a professor at Canada said to me, oh, you have a nice hobby, Pat. And I said, it's not my hobby, it's my work. Oh, yes, but you enjoy it. And I said, yeah, do you enjoy your job? And he said, yes. I said, but it's not your hobby, is it? He said, oh, well, that's different. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I was working 14-hour days.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that there's strong people like yourself breaking down those doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what it takes to change things.
And Joanne and all these great women who are coming on council that I'm excited about.
The political movement is excellent. as far as that goes. Although I've been on the record as saying that I wouldn't vote for anybody, no matter, just because of their sex.
No.
I know that to make some kind of progress, there was that behind in this election. Like there was a women's vote just for women's thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that pushes the envelope and moves the needle.
Yes.
I hope someday that it's not an issue, but.
Well, it's a bit like the youth with Sheldon, right? He was young, but did he do a good job, or was he prepped? Was he committed? And then you set, and then somebody else in their mind might say, no, I don't think so. So therefore, I'm gonna only elect people over 40 or people over 50 because of that. So you got to watch if you were elected you elected them because they were women. Well, those women better do a really good job.
Well, there's
because
also
they'll affect the ripple effect of the next one's coming.
Well, that's an interesting sort of angle because they will have a lot more scrutiny on them and be judged as women if they're elected because they're women, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's also the issue of people who, and you touched on this a bit earlier, running because you feel passionate about something.
Yes.
You can admire someone's passions.
Yeah.
But if they can't see the big picture, I know a member of my own family was a mayor of a small community in Quebec. And when she was running, I said, why are you running? And she had 3 issues that she really cared about. And one of them was agritourism, and the other was the environment, and I forget what the third one was. And I said, well, you realize that most of your time is going to be dealing with garbage and potholes.
Yes.
And that's the thing that all of these, that when someone is a one-issue candidate, I tend to shy away from them just because I'm concerned that they're not going to see the big picture.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know your opinion about the ward system talk.
Oh, okay. So, it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the concerns of people that have talked to me during the last time and this time. The last time, I believe it was a nugget question about the ward system, and I answered I would look into it. And it was Marcus Tiganelli and I that put a motion forward, and it was shot down. And I mean, and when you
shot down, didn't even want to study it.
No, and the whole thing about it is, we're not saying we're going to do it, and we're not telling you how the city's going to be divided. We don't have to do that. That's going to be an expert who's going to tell us later. But just to explore the pros and the cons and come back and either say on the next ballot, everyone will educate the public first. Everyone will have the option to say yay or nay to this. What came into my head even more this time was we were canvassing on Strathcona, and a man riding his bicycle stopped us and said, I want to see your point of view. And then when he explained it, it's not just to have, I can go to Dave all the time. If I have a pothole, I'm not happy with the community outdoor rink, anything. But what I do is, if I don't like how you did your job, the neighborhood, only the neighborhood can vote or not vote for you, and you could lose it. Whereas now, if let's say it's people from West Ferris and they really want the rink at Omichel, and you say, I'm not for Omichel, well, they're not going to vote for you, but the rest of North Bay is, and you're still going to get in. So they want to control more who represents their neighborhood. And I did point out, though, it's like anything else. You do not have to live in that ward to run in that ward, but you will be responsible for the people of that ward. I kind of get that there's a few people that were after me. You didn't take. They will write an email, send an email to all councillors, and I may not respond to it because it has to do with potholes, and that's Chris Main's domain. So let Chris handle it. And I've got enough on my plate. It's more time management. I have to do with a parent not happy with something that happened in an arena, or things to do with sports, recreation, leisure, culture, economic development, building, planning. That was under my. So everybody has enough in their own lane for them to deflect to go to another. You'd have to be at it all the time, like 100% of your time. It'd be a full-time job. But so I'm open-minded for this ward system, and you hear the elders we're too small for that. But apparently someone told me Aurora was voting on it right now. And then if it's a vote, then the staff and the experts will come in, and it will take another 4 years before it's established for the next election. I do know small communities up north have it, and they love it.
Which ones?
Matheson, I think. Matheson and Black River.
They're pretty small, though. Eh?
I know, they're small, but that's when they say if we're too small for it. Well, there's smaller ones than us. So somebody needs to do a very good research on it. Is an expert that knows about to do a study and come back and with the pros and cons, or is it staff dive into the research and have the knowledge and share the knowledge with the council at a committee meeting with all the citizens?
Yeah, no, it should be studied.
It should be, yeah.
We should
doesn't
get it out of the way one way.
Yeah, study it and say yay or nay to it, yes.
So what do you think of my idea of just going straight into it and assigning councillors a neighborhood portfolio?
You could. But the one thing, again, then
Define neighborhood portfolio.
Well, it'd just be like the ward system. Divide up the city into numbered wards, and no matter where you live from, you have to take care of this neighborhood's concerns, and this neighborhood knows to call you when they got issues.
Yeah, and you actually be really, with the ward system would be really easy when election time comes around, because you'd only canvass in only that neighborhood and not all of North Bay. So that would be efficient. Not for the mayors, but for the councillors.
I would have thought you'd have to canvass the whole city, because
you only vote for the person in your ward.
Oh,
you don't
I get
vote
it.
for Ward 2. You're Ward 3. You only vote.
Oh, I see.
Okay,
Right.
so that part. I mean, I know they did say the disadvantages is if you have a strong person, like let's say you have a Chris Main in yours, who knows, and a Mark King who know and fight, and you have two rookies in one ward. And it's where do we locate the new ball field? The ones with the most experience are probably going to get the ball field in their neighborhood, in their ward versus another ward. And then you think of wards and you fight for your sandbox, and you don't think of the city as a whole. That's what.
Yeah, that could be divisive, couldn't it?
Yeah.
That's the downside of
That's
it.
the side. And I do know
you might lose some talent in the actual campaigns that run off against each other.
Yeah.
And a neighborhood could benefit unduly or be hurt by having the quality or not quality.
And Sudbury and Sturgeon Falls or West Nipissing have wards, but that they were because of amalgamation. So the came in with your wards, and then in all of Sturgeon, we still have 6 councillors to vote for, or how many? 4. You vote for 4, and here you vote for 1 for Cache Bay, 1 for Verner, 1 for. So that came that way, and maybe one day when, I don't know, it's forgotten, but I doubt that you can go back to being just at large. But I mean, I keep on thinking of look at North Bay, and I keep on saying we have to change these names. You're either from Whitfield and East Ferris. It's been over 50 years, and we're still calling ourselves. Why we need to divide them into 10 sections and say, I'm from Graniteville, I'm from here, and divide West Ferris into more smaller neighborhoods that you belong to. But we're still, after 50 years, we're still wanting to identify what was 50 years ago.
Yeah, the old townships.
The old townships, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What I did notice was that West Nipissing, which had the worst term I've ever seen in my life as far as covering municipal politics goes, because they were at loggerheads after they lost one ward councillor, and they never did get their they might have appointed somebody at the end, but for 2 years they struggled with that. And this, after the election, it's clean sweep. There's not one
I think
veteran councillor elected to West Nipissing. It's all new faces.
Everything is new.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was looking at the list of the winners. I was going, none of them have been on before.
And that was definite on, I watched it a few times, that there were some, I won't call it loud councillors that didn't understand, or they did understand and just deflected on the truth for the procedural bylaws. They didn't like to say, I want this. I mean, the sequence says you approve the minutes. or the agenda. If you don't like it, you put a motion on the floor. But they were just saying, I don't like what's on the agenda, we're out of here. And then there was no meeting because there was no quorum.
Well, it got
And
nasty
and
after
it
a
was
while.
like you could have.
Who started
rules,
the
but it was like, oh
the
my.
idiocy first, and who kept it up? I think they took turns being uncooperative.
Yeah. And I guess the government was hoping that all you needed was one councillor to look at the forest and not the tree, and say, this isn't good. I'll be the big boy here, and I will, and we'll move forward. And for today, I'm going to say, no, we're having a meeting. Let's do it and vote on that. So stick to that side for just that one moment. But yeah,
I bet you there's a lot in that onion to be unraveled.
But there's I wasn't there. My feet were not in those shoes, and yeah. So
It was very depressing covering those meetings when I was with Beta Day as a reporter, watching that stuff in Zoom there. I think I was drinking heavy at the time. Wow, I felt so bad for the community.
Yes, yes.
And it was just no answer. And I thought it was very unfortunate that the ministry would have a deadline and rules and not have a way to back it up.
Yeah, yeah.
Or didn't want to.
Didn't want to? Is it too close to an election?
They could have. Well, no, it was 2 years out when it started. 2 years out.
They just didn't want to, yeah.
They just didn't want to get involved with set a precedent, I guess.
Well, they should have.
I think so.
Because then that would put everybody else on their toes, because wasn't there, is it Calvin Township? It had a little bit of scuffle and stuff. Maybe it would have kind of, put out a rule out there to say behave or else we're going to get involved.
Well,
yeah.
They got a deadline to decide how you want to replace them.
Yeah.
That deadline needs to be just enforced. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. That was
flip a coin if you can't agree, but you got to go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
That was mishandled on all fronts. So we're just about to wrap up.
Yeah.
Right before I ask Pat what she's writing for the next magazine, just to talk about it, I think you were going to talk about really air?
Flying.
Right on.
Yeah.
Did you want to cover one more point? How did this go? Have you enjoyed your conversation so far?
Yeah, the only thing of advice is to always remove all your preconceived ideas, and that I realized at the beginning. I'm not a nice user, but I had to, and I said if I had it my way, there'd be 15 swimming pools at North Bay. So you have to remove all your preconceived ideas of what you personally like.
Right.
Wipe it all, blank board, read the reports, listen to what the community wants, and then make a decision always make your decision on facts. Because when you say, well, I have an opinion, for me that means emotions and listening to other people. But when you make a decision, it's on facts, and then you base that decision, and you can go back to it a year later and say, yeah, that was the right thing to do. But that's about it. We'll reevaluate in 3 years where I'm headed, and it's not just me; it's about my team too.
Of course,
it's about it.
So this will never happen. But should you and I ever end up on a council together, so there'd be a swimming pool on one corner and an art studio on the other.
That'd be great.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? There we go. Yes, and we do. I did have people talk to me about saying, don't you feel that like Dreamcoat and all of that should be facilities should be provided just like recreational facilities are provided. And I said, yeah, because there's a lot of people that are arts and not recreation or athletic, and they're here, they're in our community. We need to take care of, and that is as a therapeutic exercise as much as letting it out on
sports and arts and culture are all strong legs on the same table. Without one, you don't have a well-suited community.
Right,
well, the problem in North Bay is that with the acquisition of the Capitol Theatre, and calling it the Home of the Arts, many arts groups fundraised for that, and it is now two things. It's a gallery and a roadhouse, and a couple of North Bay organizations are able to afford the symphony, can afford to perform there, but there's lots of arts groups in North Bay that can't afford the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time we're saying, arena versus theater, this
Yeah.
sort of thing. Well, if you're
Yeah.
going to do multi-use arenas, you got to start injecting more culture into some of those spaces. If you're going to build a roof, what this place needs is a place for
Yeah.
groups like Dreamcoat, Gateway Theatre Guild, because if the schools don't want them, if the
Yeah.
schools don't want them, they have to find a home.
Yes.
And nobody can afford the Capital Center.
I think it'd be a good thing. I know that in one of my last meetings at the Capital Center, we were they redid their strategic plan, and it has a new direction, so it might be worth to go talk to Katina just to see what the
Find out what the new plan is
new
for.
plan
New
is.
plan,
and-
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's start calling it an art center again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my bugaboo.
Yeah. So
Well, give me one gem from your what you're going to write about in the winter edition of the Back in the Bay magazine.
Well, the idea hasn't gelled yet, but I met my husband on the 21st of November in 1964 when he and his friend landed a little airplane in essentially my sister's backyard. They had a little airstrip. And that's when we met. And he had just bought the airplane, but he didn't know how to fly. He bought an airplane after one flight in a two-place aircraft. That's the kind of guy I married. But anyway, there was this fabulous community of pilots, but there was also a wonderful entrepreneurial community, flying community as well. So there were the private pilots who were, just gung-ho fly guys. And then there was Aurelia Air Service, which was providing freight services to the French River, to Keystone Lodge, to Kippawa. There was this great, they were flying in fishermen and hunters. And there were planes in the sky all the time. And sadly, a lot of that's lost. Mm-hmm. I'm not a pilot, but I've spent a lot of time in airplanes. Our son became a commercial pilot, and he flew everything from air ambulance to WestJet to water bombers. So flying has always been a big part of our life. And then, of course, my husband spent 7 years building a plane in our basement. So I want to write about that.
Well, that should be an excellent story.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm sure it will be. Well, Joanne, thank you very much.
you're
Appreciate
welcome.
this. It's not easy to talk about an election you didn't win, but that was a hell of a campaign, a very close election, I thought.
yeah,
I hope my column there gave you a little bit of a
it
boost
did.
there at the end.
It did.
One
It
more
did.
week, and you would have won.
I say that because
yeah, probably.
I like close elections. right?
Yeah, yes,
So,
yes.
Because you were building.
Yes.
There was
yes.
no question.
If there was another week,
Yeah.
if there was another
Yeah.
week, maybe, eh?
Maybe.
Yeah.
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 And that would have been a hell of a thing,
Wow.
right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't have snubbed the other candidate at the election night.
Yeah, it didn't sound like it was a really warm
No,
gesture.
no, it wasn't.
What actually happened there?
He was done interviewing, and I was going to be interviewed. Yes, and I went. He just shook my hand and took off, and he just said something. He allowed so much time. The one that came in third, and didn't allow me. He gave me like 2 seconds, and that was it. But
That's on him.
that's on him. It did not show good demonstrate leadership, that's for sure. And I would have expected a little more from someone who had just won the election. But that's okay. We're all human, and maybe he's going to show better leadership skills throughout the next 4 years. And it wasn't
Let's
leadership
hope.
skills; it's respect. It was
Just
the respect.
It's just
respect.
it's just been the.
Yeah.
There's always moments when you have an opportunity to be the bigger person,
Yeah.
and we all face those sometimes, and sometimes they slip by us.
And I was glad that the media was there to notice that,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have said anything. It's just Peter. But yeah, the media pointed it out.
Well, there you go then, eh?
Yeah.
They it might be a little bit late coming, but they were there for you a little bit.
Yeah, they were.
Well, anyways, it was I thought a epic moment for North Bay,
Yes.
all the way around.
Yeah.
A lot of things were revealed and exposed, and also put in front of everybody to admire as well. And now we have a very interesting council to go forward with,
Yes.
and no lack of issues on the table, eh?
Yeah.
So I wish them luck.
So do I. So all the best. All the best.
Because it's going to be a tough budget.
If you get involved, it's a great journey. It was an adventure.
Right.
It was an adventure, a 4-year adventure. I loved every moment of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what do you think the tax increase is going to be?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm thinking
You're thinking
eight
of
now.
eight
I'm thinking eight.
of all the promises that were done and all the renovations that have to happen. I won't say we'll see, but I know that I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been promised stuff, so they're expecting that at budget time, and even just to start off with. I mean, we already started. There's already going to be at least I think 2 or 2.5% just to start off without even people wanting anything.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Status quo and
and a lot of people want just their thing. Don't do other people's thing, just mine, and that won't really work. But everybody. So
is there anything to this? Get a good fat tax increase in early in your term so that you can make up for it before the next election?
I don't think people don't forget. People won't forget.
Yeah.
I mean, most, and the media won't make them forget it too. And the opposing candidates.
Yeah, but there's always an
Yeah.
excuse
Oh, yeah.
to spend more money.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with.
It will be, and I've never been. I was involved a bit as a citizen, but now it's like I'm more than just a citizen.
Yeah.
So now from the other side from the spectator seat, it will be interesting to see how
You're an
things are
informed
maneuvering.
citizen now.
Yeah, you're an
and
informed citizen.
and how they maneuver through things, and hopefully. We don't do like the feds or the province, and we blame the previous people for the next 4 years or the next 10 years. Blame it on history. That we accept our decisions and accept the responsibilities of those decisions.
Well, I expect to see
Yeah.
some letters to the editor from you, anyways, to help put things in perspective because you have that experience.
We'll see.
Right on. Well, thank you both.
Okay, thanks for having me, Dave.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for hosting.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Was this what you expected?
Yeah.
Is this what I expected? Yeah. Except I thought there would be date loaf.
Is that what you made? Yeah.